Bull in a china closet.
Oh my gosh.
And let's be honest, you would have it no other way.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm super grateful.
I think we're
Well, hello everybody and welcome to Monday Night Live.
the best night of the week.
We're super excited to be with you tonight. It is a wonderful Monday as we head into April. I cannot believe it's April already.
I know, and we're literally almost to the mid of April already.
I know.
We're already almost halfway done.
It's blowing my mind a little bit. Blowing my mind. We're the 12th of April. It has been a beautiful, beautiful year so far, and hopefully we'll just great temperatures.
Yes.
Keep going. Well, we're excited to jump in tonight and really jump into tonight's topics. We are very grateful to all of you that have liked and shared and commented on our posts, and very excited about that.
You know, it's also been really fun because a few weeks ago you mentioned the archive, right? Like the Monday Night Live archive is what I'm going to start referring to it as. And there's been a lot of you that have gone back and went back to different topics in the archive and have commented on that even. So that's been really, really fun.
Yeah.
So if you have questions in your heart about something and you're like, oh gosh, I wonder if Dean and Kate have done a topic on this, chances are we have.
Odds are good.
Because we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary here for Monday Night Live. So odds are good to go back in that archive and see where it's at. I haven't even told you this yet, but I've been asked a couple times for us to redo some of those topics that we've gone over because of your evolution, my evolution, TurningLeaf's evolution. And we're always just really strong advocates for continuing to move in your growth journey. So we probably have some different perspective than we did 3 years ago on some of the things that we've said. What
I'd love to hear is which your favorite lives have been.
Yes.
That would be really intriguing to me. Like, which of the topics have you enjoyed the most and which have been the most beneficial?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a lot of fun. So if you ever get a chance to send that information our way, I would love it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And we can always go back. We'll always go back and redo.
Yeah.
So speaking of, one that we were going to talk about tonight is one we visited. I can't even tell you how many times, but it's one that is such a important, consistent topic that we go back to it again and again and again. And that's really just about boundaries.
Right.
And really the understanding of boundaries. We've talked about them before in the past. We've talked about how important they are. We can talk about how confusing they can be for people, and really understanding how to hold boundaries, create boundaries, and stop pushing people out and cutting people off.
Yeah, I love it. We talk about this one a lot, you guys, because it is one of the 4 steps to confidence that we here at TurningLeaf. Dean, when did you guys write that book?
I don't know, a while
ago.
Yeah, I think we started writing on it way back in, I think 2011, I want to say, 2010, 11. Well, I actually started writing on it before that. So it was a book probably that took quite a bit to kind of evolve, even though it's small. I know it's a small book, but it took a minute. You know what?
Like sometimes when you can just get all of the good stuff into a space, there's no reason to make it flowery and like that doesn't make any sense. And I love, that's one thing that I really appreciate about it is how concise it is and how it just gets right to the heart of matter. So the book I'm referring to is called The 4 Steps to Confidence. It's by Dean and Dr. Richard Moody. Shout out to the Moody family.
Yep.
And so boundaries is basically step 2 in that 4 steps to building your confidence that I know I use it in my coaching a lot.
Yep.
Yes. Jamie Leitner out of Michigan, she's got this incredible series that she calls Dare to Fly that she goes through the 4 steps to confidence, and it's incredible. So it is a topic that we come back to time and time again because of how just vital it is for us in application in every area of our life.
Yes. Yeah. And it is so important for us to understand boundaries and hold them, because as the reason we call the book The 4 Steps to Confidence versus the original title was How to Increase Your Value from Within. It eventually evolved into The 4 Steps to Confidence. And the reason why is because the more that you're able to hold boundaries and use the other 3 steps, the more confident you feel in life, the more that you kind of walk into life and you feel comfortable and you feel safe. And when you can create that feeling of safety and create that feeling of confidence, you kind of hold yourself differently.
Mm-hmm.
You are able to hold your space better. You're able to allow yourself to be you without fear or without reservation. And it's an important piece.
Yeah, I love it. As always, Justin has come in clutch for us. You can get that on Amazon, by the way. If you're on the Turning Leaf Facebook page watching this, in the comments, Justin just put the link to where you can get the book.
Yes.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, my man.
Another place you can get it is just to come into our office. We have lots of them here, and especially to get into the coaching series. So what I think my heart is being drawn to tonight with boundaries, Dean, is the why we get lured out of them.
Yeah.
Like we've talked a lot about like how to create them, what the difference between a wall and a boundary, and how they're fluid and they can move as we need to get our needs met or feel safe, or if we need to push them out and all those kinds of things. But particularly tonight, I'm getting drawn into the why we get lured out of them, why we abandon them, and maybe different ways that we can navigate not doing that. I didn't know an eloquent way to put that.
That's the best way you can put it. And that goes back to one of the base core pieces that we talk about in the book. So in the 4 Steps to Confidence book, the first principle we really start out with, and even in the value-based parenting, in a lot of the literature, a lot of the work that we do in the seminars, workshops, it all boils down to the greatest human need.
Yes.
And the greatest human need is to feel of value, or to feel of value or feel valued. And the fact that we get and derive a lot of our value from external sources or from external relationships rather than getting more value from within,
mm-hmm.
That's what normally lures us out of boundaries, is that temptation, that desire to really step outside of ourselves to be something more than we are. Or it's the idea of losing identity, losing who you think you are. This is more of one where people's identity or their value is wrapped up in their careers, in their relationships. You know, a lot of times parents will have a hard time holding boundaries or being firm with children, or they'll give a consequence, but then they'll kind of fold like a lawn chair when they get a little bit of a temper tantrum.
Yes.
Or maybe they're at the grocery store and the kid's throwing a tantrum in the shopping cart. And because the parent has said, you're not going to have this,
mm-hmm.
and then, they kind of fold. And it's a lot of it's that idea of my identity, my value, my whole understanding of who I am, the self, can be changed when we look at ourselves through other people's view.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wind up kind of running around looking through everybody else's eyes at ourselves. And the minute we have a perception or perceived loss of value, we tend to fold.
Yeah, and I love that you used the word perceived, right? Because going back to what you just said, when we run around trying to look at ourselves from lenses that we don't even have vision through. Like
right.
There's no way to accurately see yourself through someone else's eyes because you're not in their head. You're not using their eyes.
Right.
So it's all just make-believe,
right?
Really,
yeah.
It's pretend where we're trying to figure it out in a perceived sort of way. And it's interesting how we navigate that and lock it in as truth when it's really just perception.
It's just a perception, and the reality of it too is the perception is momentary. The perception is fleeting. And I think that's the part where we have to be very careful with our boundary piece, is we wind up making permanent decisions off of temporary emotions and temporary perceptions. Most people's perception of first impressions tend to be very inaccurate. There are very few people that have the ability to have first impressions that are very accurate and dialed in.
Yeah.
Most of those people have been able to kind of step away from the ego and have been able to kind of step into themselves. And as they perceive other people, they perceive them as they are.
Right. And I would even add to that, though, the amount of exposure. Like even if you're quite good at showing up in your authenticity, right?
Yep.
And work really hard and bust through that ego and feeling safe and working on your own inner compass, and you're getting your value from within. We are only exposed to each other at so much length, right? So there's no way to like get a real clear view, accurate depiction of someone because we're dynamic individuals.
Very true.
And so even in showing up very, very authentically, we're still only going to see bits and pieces of ourselves.
Of ourselves or of other people?
Of others as well.
Okay,
and to be able to present that to people, right?
Like, well, yeah, very true. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I would argue that unless you like live with somebody and have a lot of exposure to them, you're still only going to get windows of individuals, and not necessarily in a way to be deceptive, but it's just exposure.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yes.
The way of articulating that.
You've gone a lot deeper than I was going.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you've gone right in the deep end of the pool, which is great.
Which is normal for me.
And that's very true. I think that type of impression where you fully understand somebody fully, you do want to have a lot of exposure to them. And you know, and a lot of times people exposure to you as well. Yes. But I was coming more along the lines of that first impression.
Yes, I hear you.
And so when you've got an individual who's pushing a shopping cart with a child who's throwing a tantrum, it's more that initial interaction more than getting to know that person so deep. And so what I'm saying is a lot of those people, their first impression or our first impression of other people is usually not going to be 100% accurate. So we have to let go of the idea of trying to control that external view of ourselves. And we need to embrace more who we are and be comfortable with it, and try to let that wall down, let that facade down, let that exterior presence that we think we're supposed to have, and just let it go anyway. And that gives us the ability to hold boundaries better, believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that that philosophy or way of thinking that it's really none of my business what other people think about me.
Right.
Like that's pretty empowering when you stop to think about it, and not in like a screw everybody else sort of way, right? When people can just show up and be like, I don't really care what you think about me, because that's not the same energy at all.
No.
But it just goes back to the fact that people have their own lens and their own perspective that they are looking at you through. So if it's accurate or not, oftentimes might even be on them if you're presenting yourself authentically.
Correct.
Right.
Most of the time. And that's, I think, one of the other pieces that we really learn about, and we learn and understand more that we research and study. What we're recognizing is most people project themselves on other people.
Yes.
So it's the same thing with, if you look at Hollywood, for example, a lot of people project themselves onto an actor or an actress, or onto a celebrity or athlete, and we base a lot of our beliefs about ourselves on that individual. We tell, I like this guy, or I like this gal, or I like this individual, I like that actor. When in reality, we really don't understand, as you were to your point earlier, to really understand them in depth. And so then all of a sudden we see the tabloids printing these horrible things about individuals that are in the limelight. And it's like, well, gosh, I didn't predict that. I didn't suspect that. And that's because a lot of what we're seeing in other people is because it's what we want to see, either within ourselves or as because of what's inside of us we want to see. So looping this all back to boundaries, we start to recognize that the best way for me to hold boundaries with other individuals is to really just feel good about who I am and feel comfortable within my own self.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like part of the biggest place where I get lured out of my boundaries is what we were speaking of just a moment ago, when it lends to, I really want to show up for someone else and like get a lot of that value, right? Like either I get the accolades that comes from it, or I feel like I like hammered a point in really, really well, and like it drew me out of my boundary for whatever reason. Let's just get transparent, shall we, Dean? Like I love to do. Is that all right with you?
It's up to you.
And it's about me.
Oh, thank the Lord. I brace myself nowadays.
So part of the reason we're having this discussion tonight is no, I want to.
All right.
Because it's a perfect example of how you get lured out of your boundaries,
all
right?
Sure.
For someone who is educated on boundaries, works to teach them to other people, and really works to keep them myself, it's a perfect example of how I got lured out.
Okay.
Today, okay? Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Awesome. So I have this amazing client right now. And their parent came in to have a conversation with me at the very tail end of my session with my client today. And we were getting into some really good things. And the parent was getting some really incredible ahas about ways to connect with their teenage child. And it felt really good to be in that space, right? To be in that creative flow. Like we were, like for me, there was this like heart to heart connection, and we were able to like have communication and give her some insight about how to increase their relationship of something that's been a little bit on the rocks for a while,
Sure,
right?
Sure.
As any parent can like really identify with, right? And so consequently, my session ran long, about 23 minutes long, shall we be exact, which then put us late into the live. And so I'm like, what are we talking about, Dean? He's like, I think we're talking about boundaries tonight, Kate. I'm like, perfect idea. Because I know that I didn't like end the session on time because I didn't want her to feel like I wasn't hearing her and giving her valuable information.
Which is absolutely appropriate.
Right?
Yep.
B, I felt like I was making a difference. So there comes that value piece, right? Like I felt like some of the insights that I had in the conversation that we were engaging in was amazing.
Yep.
Now, could I have ended on time and rescheduled and continued that? Of course, which would have been like better holding to my boundaries. However, the fear there is if I don't finish this, then maybe they won't come back, or maybe the value won't have been there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
So hence, lured out of my boundaries.
It can happen.
Yes.
It can happen.
And it happens all the time.
It does. And we see that with people with conversations and discussions, and we can see that with our own feelings a lot of times, and being able to express our feelings. Mm-hmm. And that's another piece that I do want to tap into in the last few minutes is I do think that there is this process of not just getting lured out of your boundaries by oversharing, or by engaging in something inappropriate, or doing something
temptation, can we say?
Whatever it is.
Whatever that looks
like. But there's also getting lured out of your boundaries of being authentic because we're afraid of being seen.
Yes.
So it's easier to just kind of throw a wall up and utilize that wall. And a lot of times, when we're talking about these things, a lot of times visually, it's easier to just kind of perceive it as a wall, as like a boundary, and you're hiding behind it. But here's the reality for those of you that have been through the boundary lecture and seminar, et cetera. Here's the reality is if you are putting up walls, you've already been lured out of your boundaries.
Yes.
Because walls are something that we push on ourselves and other people to keep ourselves from being seen or being authentic. Nobody's immune from this. I mean, I struggle with it. We all struggle with it, where there may be some vulnerability. There may be some intimacy that may be uncomfortable or feel exposed. And I'm not even, when I say intimacy, a lot of people think I'm talking sexually. Right. I'm talking about the vulnerability piece of people understanding
that are close to your heart, right?
And so we really struggle with that. And so in a sense, that lures us out of our boundaries as well.
Absolutely. And so what I'm always leaning into, and I know you do as well, we bring up this topic of conversation, and I'm looking at myself in this mirror, not in an attempt to belittle, shame, find judgment, fault, blame, all those things. No. We work very, very hard to get that completely out of the narrative.
Right.
However, it's good to have awareness.
It is.
It's beautiful to know, hey, I'm a human being, and this happened today. What do I want to do about that? Yeah. What can I learn from that moving forward in my life?
Right.
What is it that I actually want to be experiencing and being creating? And if we're not in awareness that this happens to us, then we just continue to move through life like a boulder and just bump into things and not have boundaries.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, if I may, with the last few moments,
please do it.
I just do want to comment on something personal, if it's okay. And so, speaking of getting a little bit vulnerable, just last Thursday, I wanted to express my gratitude. One of my dearest friends and fellow water polo coaches passed away, and he and his family are going through the grieving process as many of us are. And I just want to publicly thank Jesse Cottrell for being such an outstanding man and father and coach. A man who was willing to show integrity in the face of adversity, a man that was very much dedicated to his wife, children, and to the sport of water polo. We all in the water polo community are feeling the heavy loss. And I just want to publicly thank Jesse for being such an incredible man and being there for so many people. So I just want to kind of tag that on the end here and kind of dedicate this live to him, if that's okay with you.
I love it. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I'm with you. And the incredible part about it, Dean, for me right now, because I didn't know Jesse, I don't know his family, I don't know your water polo family personally, being on the TurningLeaf side of things in your life. But what I do know is when you love people fiercely, and then the people that love you, all of that energy, like I hope that Jesse's family can feel all of our energy, even though we did not know him, to just love and support them in their time of loss. And I speak his intimate family as well as all those that knew and loved him. And so
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Well, with that said, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you for liking and sharing our videos. And as always, please take these topics to the dinner table,
the water cooler,
and other areas that you share them. Hopefully they bring you some help in your lives.
Yes.
So thank you again. And thank you everybody for your support.
And we will see you next week on Monday Night Live. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, wait. Just smile right here.